And in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. I'm going to let you know if you should just stop what you're doing and binge watch it right now, or if you should pass on the new Netflix series based on our favorite camp counselors from Camp Firewood. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, I talk about all things movies, TV, pop culture. I upload at the bare minimum 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more future videos from me. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I'm so happy you're here. If you clicked on the video, I'm pretty sure you at least know what Wet Hot American Summer is, and if you don't, I'll make this very brief. It is about some camp counselors that go through and do a bunch of incredibly zany and incredibly crazy, just over-the-top things at Camp Firewood. That's literally all you need to know about it, because this show is just very difficult to explain to people that haven't seen it. And if you haven't seen it, I would highly suggest going and seeing Wet Hot American Summer, the 2001 film. That movie's fantastic. And then also Wet Hot American Summer First Day at Camp, the Netflix series that premiered last year. I would highly recommend that. That was also fantastic. But you're here to talk about 10 years later. I'm here to talk to you about it, give you my review on it. I binged it all night on a Friday night. I'm a huge fan of Wet Hot American Summer. I'm even wearing this shirt just to prove that I'm a fan, because you know you gotta wear a shirt if you're a true fan, right? When I was watching this show, I was so excited. I turned it on and I was hoping for the same type of thing that they captured in First Day at Camp, where all these actors embodied these characters and it felt like they didn't even miss a beat. Even though that Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler, Elizabeth Banks, etc., were like in their 30s and 40s, they were playing their characters from First Day at Camp, which is like high school students. And it was so cool, and to just see them in their role again. And I think that was part of the specialness of First Day at Camp, is seeing them in those roles again. And it was truly funny, and they stayed true to those characters that they were in the first, the feature film. And so I was super pumped to see 10 years later, because at the end of the first Wet Hot American Summer, basically just say, hey, we need to get together 10 years from now at Camp Firewood and talk about things. And that's pretty much the setup. The first episode pretty much consists of Coop, played by Michael Showalter, talking to his editor, Melissa Linsky. Really cool cameo by her. Setting up where like Coop is kind of talking about, you know, he's writing this book about all of his like life journey through Camp Firewood, and she's like says, hey, you know, this Camp Firewood is really cool, this is a brilliant book, but it doesn't have an ending. And so she says, don't you have that 10-year reunion coming up? And so that kind of is where this show, you know, begins, is with him going back to kind of finish his book, to meet everybody for that 10-year reunion that they discussed back in 1981. This is set in 1991, so there's a lot of good 90s references, a lot of good 90s clothes if you're into that. But they didn't capitalize on the 90s stuff, and I'll get to that in a minute. But you know, just seeing everybody kind of back, and they do the whole like thing where they go over like what Victor's been up to, what Andy's been up to. You see him later, you know, played by Paul Rudd. You know, just pretty much everybody, just kind of letting you know where they've been the past 10 years. They even throw in Mark Faustine, I think, you know, I think that's his name. He was in Royal Pains. And he's like a brand new character that they try to like, you know, that they kind of wink, like, hey, who's here the whole time type of thing. You know, you find out that JJ, played by Zach Orr, who's really good in this, by the way, he is actually running like an underground video store or something. It's pretty funny. Marguerite Moreau, who, by the way, she should be like an A-lister. Like, she's just gorgeous. She's fantastic. She can act. She's really funny. I'm just shocked she's not in more stuff, but she's really good in this as Katie. And, you know, she's like this fashion designer. She's like runs this fashion company. You also see Amy Poehler, who's now like, you know, a producer doing these things with Jai Courtney, who's like her new leading man in this upcoming role, who they may or may not be romantically involved in. And then you obviously have McKinley, played by Michael Ian Black, who is now dating Adam Scott, or not dating, married and has a child with Adam Scott instead of Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper played his love interest, and Bradley Cooper was super good in the movie and also in First Day at Camp, but he's replaced here by Adam Scott. And I really like Adam Scott, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's, and again, this is Wet Hot American Summer where nothing makes sense, but what I'm getting at is they don't capitalize on making that funny whatsoever. I felt like it was a wasted opportunity, even though Michael Ian Black is absolutely great in the series. He's given a lot more to do as McKinley, and he actually plays George H.W. Bush. So, you know, like I said, the show, it had promise. It sets up the characters. You're really excited about where they're going to go. And then like the first 2 or 3 episodes do not go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere interesting. It kind of lets you know that there's like this underground bunker that's going to be doing something. And I won't give anything away, but basically the camp is in peril once again. Beth, played by Janine Garofalo, is trying to sell the camp because she's kind of still there, not given much to do. kind of like her character in this season. Like last season, First Day at Camp, she was an integral part of it. Her and Jason Schwartzman like went and were trying to like save the camp, and she was really good in that. She was really good in the movie. But on this one, she's kind of grounded in like one particular area the whole time, and she just doesn't have a whole lot to do. She doesn't, you know, and Janeane Garofalo is really funny in the other ones, but just isn't given a lot to do in this one. That's kind of a lot of these characters in this show this time around. Paul Rudd's Andy isn't given a lot to do. But you know, I think Paul Rudd's one of the funniest dudes working, but he seems like he kind of just phones it in on this one. I mean, he seems kind of disinterested, and I don't blame him. I think he's done enough by coming back to this role, but at this point, you know, he's doing Marvel's Ant-Man, he's doing all these other different indie projects, all these different, you know, also doing a little bit of drama. So, I mean, I get it. It's tough to keep going back to this role because there's not much meat to the role. There's only so many times you can play that one-note character and it be funny, and it's kind of played out at this point, just in my opinion, for Andy. There's still a couple of parts where he makes you laugh, but he's in this big rivalry with this new kid in camp, and they're trying to figure out who the best kid in camp is, and it just doesn't go the places you think it's going to go. And that's like the main gripe I have about this season, was it sets up some intriguing and interesting things. Like I said earlier, the 90s thing, like they could have done a really cool like 90s like different things, and they do a little bit of that, but they could have even done more so to really differentiate it from the 80s movie and from First Day at Camp. And I don't think they capitalized on that. I don't think they took characters in interesting enough journeys, you know, and did crazy things with them. Because Wet Hot American Summer, it's like a playground, it's like a playpen. And Michael Showalter, David Wayne, and Michael Ian Black have created like an incredible thing, because no rules apply. And when you watch the series, you're going to see that like they literally don't care about anything making sense or anything having, you know, rules to it. And I love that about Wet Hot American Summer, but I felt like early on in the first 3 episodes, they reined that in and didn't go in interesting places like I thought they would. By the time we get to episode 4 and 5, we actually start seeing some of these story threads kind of come together. You don't want to give away every single storyline, but that's kind of it. And then the Michael Ian Black and Adam Scott, they're dealing with like this crazy nanny who's played by Alyssa Milano, which is actually one of the best storylines of the entire thing. That's the one storyline that I was interested in the whole time, and it was one of the main ones they focused on that I thought was absolutely great and really paid off. But some of the other ones really didn't. They didn't lead anywhere, and that's one of my problems with the show. Like I was saying, was that they set up some interesting things, but they didn't take it far enough, and they didn't do enough with it. But then we get to episode 4. And episode 4 really turns things around. You know, episode 4 really turns things around because we meet Gene, we meet Christopher Maloney again, who is just like down on his luck, living in a trailer. The can of vegetables goes and finds them. And I won't give away why they have to come together, but he has to come together with Chris Pine and Jason Schwartzman. That's not giving anything away because they're in the trailer. But these are the highlights of the entire series for me, was these guys. Chris Pine is absolutely phenomenal in this role. Like, this is like something that shows how talented Chris Pine is as an actor, is he takes the role of Eric in this movie and just completely blows me away with the stuff and the nuances and the quirks that he gives this character, and makes it a fully living, breathing character that you truly remember and truly love watching, even though he has very limited screen time. It was brilliant. It was hilarious. Probably my favorite character in the series at this point. Christopher Maloney gives 110% in any role he does. No exception with this one. He goes balls to the wall. He goes, you know, he just is great as Gene and gives it 100%. And it was good to see Schwartzman again back in this one as well. So again, once you get to episodes 4 and 5, it gets a lot better. The episode 4 was like the highlight for me. Episode 5 was good. You know, the episodes get better as they go from 4 to 8. But the first 3 were kind of weak. Even like the later episodes were kind of weak as well when you kind of find out the climax of everything. But those middle episodes are actually pretty solid. You know, so that was like my main issue. And again, one of the major issues I had with this was that all the characters in this show, you could tell they couldn't schedule all these actors at one time, because all these actors are like A-listers, you know, and are like working, or like doing a lot of work right now. So it's probably very difficult for them to do like a series, you know, an 8-part little series like this and get all of them here at once. So just like in First Day at Camp, you can tell that, like, you know, Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler are probably not in the same room together having that conversation. They're shooting one side each time and then editing that in with green screen and backdrop and everything else. But on this one, you can really tell that they're doing that, and it's a very big distraction, and it really kind of affects the comedy because there's none of that back and forth. And one of the biggest things with improv is like playing off of your other actors and other performers and bringing that to life. And I think that's where Paul Rudd struggled with, is it looked like he was just filming everything by himself. He didn't have nobody to go off of. love. But you know, so you saw this with a lot of different things, and like Coop, you know, even though the story's kind of about Coop once again, I like how they went other directions with this stuff, but Coop was kind of like, he couldn't have even been in this show and it wouldn't have really mattered, which is odd considering he was such a big part of the series up to this point. And one of my other gripes is that there wasn't hardly any good cameos. Like the first day at camp had tons of cameos. You had John Hamm as the Falcon, you had Michael Cera as Johnny Pisspot, and I could go on and on and on. You know, at that time you had Chris Pine who did a cameo, so there was all these great cameos. This one there wasn't near as many. There wasn't near as many memorable scenes, memorable cameos. And that kind of bothered me because I feel like they could have really just went crazy with this, and even if they couldn't get the cameos or get the people together, they could have at least made the stuff more funny. And I think that was the major issue, is that this wasn't near as funny as First Day at Camp or Wet Hot American Summer, the movie. You're kind of feeling the fatigue of the series. And let's be honest, the fact that they've even made a movie and 2 series on Netflix of this is a victory in and of itself. And I think that David Wayne, Michael Showalter, Mike and Black are super talented guys. I mean, I even watched Stella on Comedy Central for that season it was on there. So I'm a big fan of theirs. And it's sad for me to say, but this really kind of missed the mark for me. It wasn't that great. It wasn't bad. It's still better than some of the other comedies on TV that you'll watch today. But for Wet Hot American Summer, where the bar is set pretty high for like unique and funny and balls to the wall comedy, it really kind of fell short for me. It does get crazy with certain things toward the end, but at that point, you know, there just wasn't a ton of huge laughs, and I was left pretty disappointed. So my grade for Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later, guys, is actually a C. I'm very sad to say that because I'm a huge Wet Hot American Summer fan. I really am. I think these dudes, everybody involved is so super talented and great. And it's sad for me to say that stuff, but I think that the counselors at Camp Firewood has kind of ran its course. It's time to kind of move on. We've had something great. We can look back at something great and it'll live on. It's a cult classic, and that's a victory in of itself. So I was a little disappointed, but there's a couple episodes in there that are hilarious, and it's worth watching just for the actors I mentioned above. With Chris Pine, Christopher Nolan, and I saved the best for last, John Early is absolutely hilarious in this. He was like one of the highlights for sure. If Chris Pine was my favorite character, then John Early had to be my second favorite character, because he brings so much great energy, and he has these great things with Amy Poehler, and they go back and forth so great, and that's definitely one of the highlights. So John Early, man, this dude could be a superstar. I think he's hilarious. I can't even give anything away, but he's just great. You saw him in First Day at Camp. You'll see him again in this. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought of Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. Let me know if you're a fan of Wet Hot American Summer. Try to keep it spoiler free if you don't mind, so just so people have a chance to see it. But let me know what your favorite moments were and what your favorite characters are in the series. I'd love to hear from you guys and get your perspective and start a conversation. If you give this video a thumbs up, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye.